Hello and welcome to another Random Code stream. Let me get my camera down here in the correct position for coding. This is part, 9? And I hope it will be the last one for this series of streams on this issue that you see on the screen before you. Good coffee. Good coffee, Madcap. Okay, let's get some music going. I think I'm at the point now where I can start to not wind down, but get to the lower hanging fruit. Like I want to do some prettyifying, if that's a word, on the code, making some more space and some members. I do want to add some comments, but I'm going to basically stream for an hour or so, and then we'll run all the code gen tests. We'll run the integration tests. Not all of them, because all of them have to be in the new style of things. But what I realize is in the project file, I can basically say remove all of the CS files and then add like one or two specific ones. And so that way I can introduce a couple, make sure that they're working the way I expect them to. And then go back and make sure I'm finished up on all these things. And get all the integration tests and unit tests done. That will be on the side. The documentation updates will be on the side, then I'll release a new alpha. But hopefully this should be the last stream. If I can get confirmation that a handful of integration tests run, then we are truly in the clear, I think, hopefully, and can move on from that point. All right, so first thing, let's go look at some of these space issues. Again, this doesn't affect the code. It's a pretty thing. But in case I'm looking at the code, it would be nice if it looked a little bit decent-ish. So when I create all the handlers, this is what I was complaining about with because I got to change all these 4 H's to 4s, and then I got to keep track, if you're in the last index, that you don't add a space at the end. Blah, blah, blah. So, okay. I really wish, and I know we've discussed this before, that there would be a do this as a for loop. I'm almost positive there was something like that, but no, there isn't. Var I is equal to 0, I is less than mock properties count length I plus plus. Thank you. And then all the rest of it's the same. I don't know why I can't do that. Okay. We can just do this. So we can say here, if I is less than, because let's say we had 4, so it goes 0 to 3. But we don't want to do it in the last one. So if I doesn't equal mock type properties dot length minus 1, then we do a writer dot write line. Okay, now we should be able to test this out pretty quickly. If we go to any of these, excuse me. Because I believe that this one will generate at least 2. So actually, now that I look at this, oh, we are getting a space in here. I don't know how. That's another thing to look at. Come on, where is... Oh, duh. Who is calling build here? This. We put a right line at the end, always. Okay. I do flip-flop on these things. Which one should be the one to put the correct spacing at the end of what you do? Property handler types and method handler types. Oh. Shoot. See, what we could do is take this out and then say here, every time we generate one of these, rewrite a line, because this is call from both spots. And then we don't even need to keep track of this. And then we can go back and say, convert to for each. Thank you. So that should now change. If we do this here, what we should be getting is, nope, not there. Here. Nope. There. So we'll get the handlers grouped together like that. So you get a handler, and then you get the field related to the handler. Right? Right. Yep, that passes. Okay. So I think that fixes that. Again, these are not bugs. These are not like... These are causing issues. All the new expectations changes I made. Yeah, so we need to look at this. So we create the setups. We have setup class. We put the setups there. That all looks good. But when we're creating... like the method here, run, we are always putting a space after it. And this could have methods, properties, and indexers. So we only want to put a space at the end if we're not the last one. Or line feed carriage return. However you want to view it. Okay, so you can close that off. You can close that off too. And then so we build the setups. We do get a list here. So we're going to go in here and build. And yeah, now I got to change it because we only want to do the right line if you're not the last one. No, count. Thank you. So now we say if I is not equal to then we do this. Okay, so that should take care of this, right? Nope, it did not. Really? Well, wait a minute. What is it doing? It is doing the right thing. I must just not have had the right kind of line feed carriage return in it, I guess. I don't know. Okay, so that passes now. So we now get that a little bit buttoned up. This all looks fine. When we do all the explicits, we also want to do yeah, putting a space here is fine. We only want to put a space here again if we're not the last one. And I think we're doing a 4 here, so we can actually copy what we just did here. Not pretty, but that should now have taken care of this. I don't understand. I really don't understand what it's complaining about with the... screw it. Let's just get to the test login. It still thinks there should be a line there, I think. Oh, not methods. We need explicit types here. There we go. There we go. Okay. So yeah, we do want to change this on the makes too. Between the two gend methods for optional arguments. Okay. That I believe drills down into the same thing. Maybe. So if you need a generation with defaults, here we want to do a writer.write line. And then we build this. Because we come through it again, and we won't do it again. Now, which one is one that has defaults? So what should happen here now is there should be a line here. And actually there, you know what, let's just redo this because I think Okay, let's look at this. So yeah, this is the second one that's generated. We do that, but we realize that this is all we need, so we don't put a space here. Nice. Again, doesn't need to be done, but it's nice. And I like that these are grouped together in a way. Like if we had the handlers and the fields, I do like that there's no space here because I kind of like, they tie very, very strongly to each other. And then that's all good. I do need to look at something that does multiple adornments because I don't think we're doing anything there. Okay. Because I think that's one thing I noticed. We got that done. What does multiple adornments? Do we have a test? No, that won't do it. Nope. I need one that has multiple. Damn it. Actually, can we just look through this and see? Do we have one that already does that? We can just make one. With multiple methods. Exists. We'll be very clever and say does not exist. So that's going to change. And that's going to change. Okay, now I get the make code. And I don't know why that space is at the end. We're going to figure that out. Because there really shouldn't be any. Doesn't matter, again. It's no big deal. Okay, now that's all good. What did it do when it generated? So that's the adornments. So we got a good example there. We should see when we do the setups that we now have does not exist. It exists. And there's no space, no line there. And that's all good. That's all good. That looks all good. So we just need to go to the adornments. Okay. Mock adornment builder. So we generate this class. That's here. And we for each, except we're not, because we're going to do this. For I is equal to 0, I is less than adornments count I plus plus. Give me that delicious. Oh, come on. Why don't you do that? Oh, for God's sakes. It's a hash set. Who does this crap? Fine, fine. We're just going to leave it as is, except we're going to make our own index. If index is not equal to adornments, pipeline information count -1, writer.write line, and then we also index ++. There. Now what that should do is put a space here, or a line feed. And it does. Good. Good, good, good. In generating code, the goal is not to be like matching the style of what the person generates already or creates. Like if they have editor config styles, if they do things in a certain way, you really shouldn't be trying to match that per se, because that's a lot of work for little benefit. There was a discussion, I don't know, maybe a month ago on one of the Discord C# or .NET servers, and somebody was coming up and saying, well, I'm on contract and I'm supposed to do this, and the code that I generate, I have to make it match their style. And so one of the things that people were telling this person to do is don't try to figure it all out using the using namespaces at the top of your code file. Just use fully qualified names. It's much easier. It's much simpler. You don't, yeah, does it look as pretty? No, but that removes all of the stuff that you have to worry about in terms of what do I bring into as a using. The only thing I do here is because I use extensions in certain cases. So I will bring in the rocks extensions. But other than that, everything is fully qualified. Solves a whole bunch of things. And he's like, yeah, but they want, because you can save the generated code if you want. I don't know why you would, but you can. And they wanted to save that, and they wanted it to be in their format. And it's like, people were saying, man, you should really, really go back to them and say, people from Microsoft on the compiler team are recommending to you to not do this. It is not worth the time and the effort. Like, I don't know what the pinvoke source generator does. There's one for that. There's one for logging. You can do that with message templates. You can do that with regular expressions. There's so many source generators now in .NET. And I don't think any of them give a hoot about what your code is doing. So in terms of what it just is trying to build something so that it provides value and functionality. That's really what you're going for. So, all right, let's take a look at the make one, because okay, so we disable this. See, somehow we get a space at the end. I don't know why. I don't know why. We should not be getting a space at the end. I know it's a little different between the makes and the creates. Okay, but here, what we want to do is say, let's close that off. Close all these other ones off. Because here we have two. And so what we want to do is we create the namespace. We build the stuff. So it's somewhere in here. So here we go through and we say we exclude from code coverage. Yep. We put that in there. We do all the constraints. Then we start building the thing. We do the constructor. That's what this is. And then we write a line, which is fine. And then we do this. Okay. Wait. Okay. So we definitely want to put if we put one after the end of every one, the problem is that we would get down to the bottom and we would have an extra one that we don't need. But if we go through each of the methods of properties and then indexers and we say, okay, if you did go through this, but here's the issue. If, like, let's say you had methods, you didn't have properties, but you had indexers, and we put in the logic here to say, always put a red line except the last one. Well, now the properties won't do anything. The indexer, the next one it generates, is going to butt up against the last method one. So these have to be conscious to say, hey, wait a minute. If there were, for the properties, if there were no methods, we don't care. We just start, we would do what we would want to do now. For the indexer, we would only want to do an extra line if it's a simple problem, and you basically want to look at what's printed before. If anything got printed before you, then you need to put a space there. Like whether methods or methods and properties or just properties did something, you have to separate yourself for indexers. Okay. Now, this is also tricky because wait, where the... So we build ref return fields if we need them. We should probably put space between... God. Like between the ref return fields, we should say if there was something, we put a space after that, and then we do the constructors. The constructors will always do at least one thing, so you have to be able to make an instance of it. So you have to have at least one constructor, so that right line there is fine. Now the thing though here is that if there were no methods and you're doing your properties, you only You only print out an extra line if something was done before you. Okay. So let's go into here, though, and say var were fields generated. It's false. And so if we even get in here, we just say if were generated. Yep. Okay, so that will just put us. That just puts a. What the? That puts a line between the ref return fields and the constructors. Now we do this. Now we go into the methods. And what we want to do here is say yeah, for var I less than mock methods dot length I plus plus. Come on, you're smarter than this. There you go. Now we say here if I does not equal mock type methods length minus 1, we do a right line. Okay, so now we come here and we say properties. Well, before we do if there are properties, we're making today, working on some source generator stuff in C# for a library that I maintain called Rocks. There's a link in the description for the issue I'm working on, so if you want to learn all about Rocks, you can just go to that repository. That is what I'm working on in this stream. Okay. Really what I'm doing right now is just some code. Making code look prettier that's generated. Now, if we do need to print this out, if we do need... Because we need to know if there are any of these. So, unfortunately, I think I have to allocate a list. Var properties is equal to array. Okay, so now if properties down length is greater than 0, now we're going to do this. What are you doing? Okay. So we know we're going to come in here and do that. But we have to look and see, were there any methods that were done? Because if there were, the last one won't get a space and we want a space. So if mock type dot methods dot length is greater than 0. Yep. And now we come in here, and now we say for I equals 0, I less than properties dot length I plus plus. Thank you. And then we do the same logic here, except we need to say there. So now that will put a line after if any methods are generated before we start doing the properties. Okay, if there were no methods generated, then we don't put that right line there. We'll go through all the properties. We'll add a line at the end, except the last one. And now we do the same thing for indexers. And we say where it is an indexer. Okay. What can I grab here? Mock type events, of course, of course, of course, of course. Get to that in a moment. All right, so if we have indexers, great. Now we say if the methods are in 0 or the property's length is greater than 0, then we put a right line. We do this again. We say for var I, not 1, is equal to 0, I less than indexer's length, I plus plus. Thank you. And then we do this logic, which is we put in a right line unless we are at the last one. Okay. Now, if we do this, now we have to decide, do we print? And we put an extra line in here only if, well, no, wait a minute. No, that's not right. We don't have to check that because you have to have at least methods or properties or indexers, one of those three, for this to be generated to even get here in the first place. So you would have done one of these three. Okay. Let's go into here. So now what we should have is a line like that. Hopefully. Yep, we do. Okay, let's look at a test that does ref returns. Do we have that? We don't have that. Really? I don't want to repeat a test. I don't have a test for this. I'm sure I have a test. I hope I do. Huh, I don't. Return test. No, I do not. Well, ain't that a kicker? I guess I gotta add. Add unit and integration tests for ref returns. And what I mean by that is, I actually have to look this up because I rarely, if ever, do this. C# ref return. Blah. Blinding. So let's say we have an interface that has like a ref int get. So what we want is, we don't need a namespace here. We can just do this. Ref int obtain. Be interesting to see what this generates. Oh, okay, now we got to go through the rigmarole of, whoa, wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. Oops. Can you not do that on an interface? Yeah, you can. Where is this failing? Because it's failing somewhere. It's throwing an exception. Well, oh, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. It's the wrong stupid thing. Okay, I was like, oh my god, does this not even work at all? Wait, why is this? Oh, I'm being stupid. I'm missing that. I took the namespace off. I even said I was doing that, and then I don't even listen to myself. Okay, so that should have done the create. Let's just check quick what it's doing here. We do want a space there. So whatever we're doing... with ref returns in the... Okay, we do that. Then we build shim fields and ref return fields. Okay, so same thing. We want to do here. We want to do this. No. And then if come on. Thank you. Okay, so it gets rid of that. I think for the shim fields, we want to say if okay, so we come back here. What that should have done is put a space there. Because we need to do a ref return and we need the field here. That's what's being generated. Okay, now let's go look at what this is breaking. Because we also need the make generated, but okay, that looks like the make code. Okay, let's grab that. Yeah, I can already see it did the right thing. It put a space now in between the ref return field and this because we have to do this for the makes. Okay. All right, so that's done. Let's look at a shim example. So it does the handlers. We're going to separate those out. Does the verify, does the mock. It puts a field here, but we would want a line after that, which I think I've already just done. Because they say shim fields and then I do a right line. So that should have put a line there. Yeah, this all changes. This puts 2 lines here, which is not what we want. Let's regenerate this and let's see what happens with shims. Do we have one that has... No, we don't, but that's okay. Okay, let's regenerate that. Regenerate that. Grab all this code. Okay, so now we got the setups here. Guess we have explicits. Sure. Handlers 1, 2, 3, verify, mock. We now put a space there. Still got too much space there. Got the adornments right. Just make sure that the code that I'm generating doesn't break anything. I don't think it should, but you never know. Good. At least it all passes. We do have some minor spacing stuff here. Like I noticed here with the explicits that we're doing on the mock itself doesn't seem to be handled right. So if we go to the mock type, we say we build shim fields, ref returns, constructors. Yeah, we're putting in a line automatically, and we shouldn't be. We should be doing here. And then if there. Okay, so that should take care of at least one of these. And then when we're doing this, well, we could, I'm sorry. I think this was right in the sense that this is the last thing that's done. What the mock type does is a little different. We want to put this after, because all this code is doing right now is always putting a right line after everything it does, so that there's space in between. But I don't like that. The reason this is... So now it should put a space here. Right? Yeah. But I do think mock type generation. We really want to revisit that and kind of do what I've been doing, which is if you produce something, put a right line after yours unless you're the last one. And then if stuff was generated before you, it wouldn't have generated the last line, so you need to generate that. It's a little ugly, but I think that way it's going to make stuff a little bit better. But I do want to watch the time because I want to get some stuff done today. And I got an extra hour today. Yippee! Because we jumped back an hour. I'm not going to rant about that. What I want to do before this is all done is spend some time running the cogen tests. We'll do that quick. And then try to just change a couple of integration tests by changing the CS project file around a little bit to say like hide all the files, but introduce one at a time. And we'll do a couple and change those and see if they run. That way I can actually build some stuff, some integration test stuff, to see if that all works. And then we know we've got some unit tests running already. What I really want to do then is at this point, you know, if that kind of smoke test works, then I'm going to go and get all the rest of this prettification done, adding some XML comments for things that I think would be helpful when people are using stuff in rocks, and then finally go through this. But all that would be is basically just stuff I do off camera, because that would be a lot of boring work to see. Okay, so let's get the code generation test to run first. Because the code generation test runs a lot of, it basically creates a mock for all these types that it finds in NuGet packages I reference. It basically tries to generate 20,000 at this point. And all it does is it says, do they compile? Based on what Rocks tries to do. It doesn't run them, just tries to compile them. That alone can find some errors, and it has in the past, which has been very helpful. Then I want to run a couple of integration tests. That just makes sure that the logic of the Rocks code works correctly. We already know that we got unit tests running. The unit tests basically say what Rocks generates, does it match, as if you've been seeing what I've been doing throughout this whole thing, does it basically match the code that's in the test? And if it doesn't, that means something isn't working the way I expect it to from a code generation standpoint. So that's what all gets covered here. All right, so we're going to run the code generation test. This takes about 5 minutes to run. And mostly what it ran the last time in the previous stream. So hopefully most of what I've been doing doesn't break anything, because I don't think I've broken any logic stuff. I've just been doing code formatting changes in this stream. So hopefully that will work. So I got to fill 5 minutes with banter now. My wife and I went out to dinner last night, and then we went to a brew hall. And I like the brew hall we go to. It's in Shakopee, called Shakopee Brew Hall. And it's a really nice place. She doesn't drink beer, so I had a couple. But we bring like a board game along, and we'll play that. And then I actually ended up watching the last game of the World Series. Not because I'm a baseball fan. I'm not, but it was kind of fun to watch it. Found out the Dodgers won, which I don't care. At the end of the day, I really don't care. But there's kind of this thing, I was really hoping Toronto would win. It was really cool to see Geddy Lee behind home plate. He's got season tickets. I think he does, behind home plate, and that must have sucked too, as being a fan, to see them not win, but oh well. They had a coffee cake beer. It almost tasted like maple syrup in a way. It had that flavor to it. It was good, but I should have just stuck with one, because it was kind of rich tasting that way. So one would have been more than enough. But we also, for dinner, we went to a place called Bravi's. It's a Mexican restaurant here in Shakopee, and if you're ever in the area, I would highly recommend going to, well, the brew hall is great. Bravi's is a great place for dinner. I really like their food. They do a fantastic job. So I would definitely recommend checking out Bravi's. This stream sponsored by Bravi's. No, that's not what I'm trying to get at. They're good stuff, and they actually partnered with another local brewery. So they had separate buildings, and they decided to put a building together. So Badger Hill Brewery and Bravi's are in the same building, and then they have a way that Bravi's will sell their beer along with some others, but then they also have like a window, so if you're in the brewery section, you can order food and eat it there. So it's a nice match. I think they did a really good job in pairing that together and working together that way. So, but I like Shakopee Brew Hall too. I just decided to go there. But go to Bravi's. Definitely go to Bravi's. It's worth it. Good food. Almost finished with a horror book I've been reading. I don't know if I'll be able to get it done today, but it's been, October, so I wanted to get, I got a stack of horror books, and I'm just getting near the end of the first one, but I was also trying to finish the third book in a sci-fi trilogy at the same time, so that was kind of dragging me a little bit. So I'll make November spooky month. I'll keep reading those books. All right, we're down to S. I really want to try to get all of this done early this week. It's a lot of code changing, but I really want to get it done because I want to push out an Alpha 2 and get this all buttoned up. Because not this week, but the next week is .NET Conf. That's when they're going to release .NET 10, and then the week after, which I don't have anything to do with it, I'm just going to watch it, but then the week after is VS Live Orlando, and I definitely am needing to make sure all my presentations are up to speed. So I got to get working on that. As I mentioned in the last stream, I like going to conferences where I don't feel like I'm rushing at the last minute to make sure everything is put together correctly. I know people that are speakers that will do that. They'll go to conferences and they'll be like, yeah, I'm heading back to my hotel room and I'm going to start working on my slides. I'm like, I couldn't. Like I said, I could do it. If I really was pressed for time, I could do that. But I don't like that. I want to go to a conference and not have that pressure of I've got to do that work at that point. I just want that done beforehand. I've done enough talks in my life that I could whip something together if I really needed to on something that I know a decent amount on if I had to, but I'd rather not. All right. I'm getting near the end of this. Let's see if this broke or not. All right, that's good. Good. Now, let's just say I took our tests and I said I don't want to delete it. I know there's a way to do this in a project file. Remove from, yes. Yeah, so we could remove all of the C# files and then say add just one, right? Let's commit this first. 394 small formatting improvements. Okay. All right, so now let's go in the integration folder. If we say item group, we want to remove content. Before I do this, let's just make sure that we just grab one of these. I mean, I'll see them in the and then let's say content add or include. What did that do? Nothing. It's not what I intended. Well, they're not content files. They're... That's... Oh, if we want to exclude it from the project, what does that do? Compile, remove. Okay, that's what we wanted. Okay, so we can do that. Compile, remove. See, now it only does the one. Perfect, that's what we want. The files are still there. Like if I go to the folder here and I say, open in File Explorer, I mean, they're all there. We're just saying we don't want to do any compilation except this. I knew there was a way to do this. I just couldn't. Yeah, it's a build action compiler. That's a little, it would be nice if it said compile here. But okay, so what this does now is it should let us focus on that. Yeah, it's right here. That doesn't change. This is what I love about the make stays the same. You may be wondering why change that to setups, but setups now has everything on it, and you can specify that as its own object if you want. Yeah, this should be insert enter multiple scope now. Oh, fine. Let's shut down, start up again. Oh, I know why. Yeah, we can't. I know why. We can't get rid of all the files. There are some that we need, and one of them was the mock definitions, and I totally forgot about that. Because otherwise it won't make... So let's hide that first. Okay, and now we should see all the files here. But what we also want to include is shared. Shared. And then there should be a mock definitions. Yes. And now, if we do this, we should only see that. Oh. Well, crap. What is nice, though, is that this all came in. You know, so that the stuff that I changed here, it's all fine now. And if I look at this type, this now has the setups in it. It's all glorious. But what I want to do is run it. So what I have to do now is go into here. And unfortunately, comment all of this because it's trying to find these types and it can't. And so now if I said build, and now if I said run these tests, they all pass. Okay, that's good enough for me right now. What are we cooking? God, I hope hopefully moving to the end of my work on this issue. The issue is in the description of this stream, so you can take a look at it. That'll describe everything I'm working on. So basically building a source generator. Well, I've already built it. I'm adding changing something around. So, all right, cool. I think that works. We know the unit test works. So now I'm at the point where I really just need to go back, because of all the code changes I've made, make sure that all the integration and unit tests are running correctly. That's going to take some work, but that's going to be done off camera because that's boring stuff that nobody wants to watch. This is already, I think, stretching it, but this is good. This is good because now what we can do here is we can say our setups is equal to expectations setups, and then you can just do this. Oh, on setups. Yeah, there we go. And so you can run this test and that passes. Beautimous. Again, I'd love it if I can figure out how to get create to give you a multiple return for expectations and setups. So it's like a little bit less code, but that's fine. It is what it is. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this. Again, it didn't quite land exactly the way I wanted it to. If I go back to the issue here, I think the idea was we wanted it right on expectations, but we had to put this intermediate setups class in between. But like I said, if you don't like that, you can just come in here and capture the setups as a variable and then do all your setups on that if you want to. Introduce local for set. No, I would not want to do that. No, I don't want to do that either. Okay. Yeah, I think at this point we're good. So what I'm going to do for this issue is I'm going to spend all my time now on the prettification, finishing that out, and then adding comments in the code so that it lights up a little bit easier. Like it would be nice to say sets an expectation on this method or something. I don't know. I got to figure out what I want to actually do here for these things. But I think I already have. Didn't I put somebody here already? No, it doesn't show up in this case. But it oh, it's for explicits. That's right. That's where I started doing it. I'm like, yeah, I want to do this everywhere. But here it could say like gets the setups for I don't know, like how I would name it, but putting these things in here. Specifies a handler type for this member, and then it puts the member there. Because you're going to use these things in other places, and so having that stuff around, I think, would help a lot. Wouldn't need any of the mocks. Would want some on the adornments down here. Specifies classes for adding adornments on the mock target type or something like that. So get those on in places that I think would be helpful. I think there's definitely more work to do because I need, this all is not hard stuff, just time-consuming stuff. But hopefully I can get some time in over the next 2 or 3 days and really bash this stuff out and get this so that we're in a state where, and I definitely want to release a 10.0.0.alpha 2, because there's an alpha 1 out there. I want to release an alpha 2 once this is done. So to that point, let me make sure that in the package project, no, here we want to have alpha 2, and then we want to say changelog not yet released, updated the expectations API, the generated expectations, and this would be issue 394. There. Okay. That's enough for now. So the next stream that I do, the next random code stream I'm going to do, will either be part 10 of this, because I ran into something that I need to fix and I want to show that on camera. Or it will be something else that I'm working on, and I'll just summarize that this is now out there, and that should be it. Yeah. All right, cool. Anyway, I want to thank everybody who's been watching either now, live, or in the future. If you haven't subscribed to the channel just yet, please do so. I would greatly appreciate it. If you are already subscribed, I appreciate you for doing that. I will be doing some Silk Song streams, Hollow Knight Silk Song streams this afternoon and or evening, and also on Tuesday around 7 p.m.-ish and Thursday around 4:30 p.m.-ish Central Time. And again, the next time I do a random code stream, it'll either be something came up with this and I have to fix it, or I moved on to something else. But for now, I'm done with this stream. Thank you all for watching. Take care, and I hope to see you in the future.